very warm welcome, Lena. Welcome to our studio. Welcome to the Sparc podcast. I'm extremely excited to have you here because I have a bazillion questions, I think, prepared. So I'm happy that we'll get to answer some of them in the next hour. Yeah, so Lena, you are the co-founder of Air Up. Air Up is a beverage company that revolutionized the drinking space by using scent-based pods, right? And the scent-based pods are flavoring the water without adding any sugar or ingredients. You're probably way better at explaining what Air Up does.
Yeah. You did a very good job already.
So yeah, well, I think Air Up is a company that is known, at least in Europe for sure. Everyone knows Air Up. I think you also did a great job at building your brand. I heard that it was a big baby for you to grow that brand and to have such a strong audience also liking the product. Honestly, I told you before we started with recording, when I look at the history of Air Up was a product that you were working on in your bachelor thesis with your co-founder. You then had the Exist grant from Germany. You started the company in 2018. You went on the market in 2019, immediately sold 80,000 starter kits. For me, sounds like a dream come true history, founding just straight out of a book. It probably didn't feel that way, right?
Right, yeah. I think it more felt like a roller coaster. I know this is also a term used quite often in the startup space, but it actually did feel like it. Because, of course, what you can't see from the outside. I mean, before we went to market, right, this was already like an up and down. And I would say it was also a tough time because you work in the unknown, right? I think people tend to forget that before we came to market and it actually became a success, everyone thought, well, yeah, nice idea. Who would ever buy like scented air, so to say, with a bottle where you can put in water? Like, why would anyone be interested in that? So you had to, I had days where I was like, oh, this is the greatest idea ever, to why would anyone want to buy this? So it was very emotional, up and down. Right. And of course, a lot of work.
Yeah, so, I can imagine that. I have a question later on for that, for the feeling of when did you realize that people would actually buy it? Maybe just a step before that. It was a bachelor thesis project. You and your co-founder met at university. Take us back. How was that? How did you start? And how did you actually realize this is an idea that could potentially be a company?
The idea. Yeah, well, so I studied product design together with my co-founder, Tim. And the thing is, when you have to work on your bachelor thesis, you first need to find a topic, right? So it's not like you get a defined like question or like a topic up front, but you have to kind of find yourself something you would like to work on. The only requirement is you have to get a physical product out of it by the end of the day. So it's very broad. So I would say the first half of the project, we were just occupied with finding the right thing to work on. And we were quite sure, okay, we want to solve a problem. We want to solve a problem that is big enough, which is, for me, back in the days, was not a business-related question. Now, having founded a company, I know this is kind of also a business-related question because you kind of work on the tam sam som and stuff. Like you have to find enough people that are concerned with the problem. And then, yeah, we found out that, or when we found out, we realized nutrition is a huge thing, right? Because it leads to a million problems. It's actually like our intake of sugar leads to is one of the main reasons why we have a shorter lifespan now than before. We have a worse life quality. And then at the same time, we also got very intrigued with sensory perception because we were listening to a neuroscientist, to a TED Talk from David Eagleman. Very interesting. I can recommend to everyone to watch it. And there he was talking about how our sensory perception is not very suitable anymore for our environment, right? So back in the days, our sensory perception was responsible for us to survive in our environment. And it's it's wired in a way that it made us survive. And today, this environment doesn't exist anymore. So when we talk about taste or flavor, for example, we love and crave flavors that were important energy sources back in the day. So salt, sugar, fat were things that were rare to find in the environment, but helped us survive for a couple more weeks or so, right? So our body made us eat those things as much as one can. And, well, our sensory perception hasn't changed. The problem is just that those energy sources are not rare anymore, but they are omnipresent, right? You can eat sugar, salt, and fat whenever you want. And in that mass, it's bad for our body. So we found out flavor is a thing. Flavor is actually the reason why we eat so much shit. It's not education, right? I think we all know that we shouldn't eat muffins, we shouldn't go to McDonald's, but in the end of the day, it's just the flavor that makes us go there. So we thought, okay, if flavor is a problem to many of or is the root cause to the problem, maybe there's a way to create flavor without having to add the things that are not good for your body in this mass, right? And then we digged into flavor perception, and we found out that our flavor perception is not just defined by our tongue, which is something we thought until that point, but it's an interplay of all our 5 senses. So it's smell, temperature, consistency, color, everything, like all those things come together and define our flavor perception. But to the biggest extent, it's defined by scent. So there's no defined number, but scientists say roughly 80% of our flavor perception is defined by scent. And what we then found out, it's not, when you think about smelling, it's not, you think about having like a source of smell underneath your nose, like sniffing in through your nose while, I don't know, eating or drinking. But it's not the case, because what actually happens is that you chew on food or you have something to drink, and with the movement of your tongue and with the movement of your mouth, you will extract aromas, and they rise up to the olfactory center that sits here, and the brain interprets it as flavor because it's so connected to the tongue, and then it's getting exhaled, and that's called retronasal olfaction. And that's what we stumbled across
during that time,
and thought, well, this is interesting. Maybe we can make something healthy taste nice just because we add scent, and probably scent has less influence on our body than sugar and whatever you put into the product. And then we had a very simple prototype. We went on the internet and ordered a scent infuser on Amazon and got it to our office. Put a straw into the outlet, put it into our mouth while drinking, and they were like, that does
actually works.
It actually works. And from then we created the idea.
Off.
Yeah.
So that's the secret in the end, right? The secret of Air Up, and probably the secret to success, that you have found something that the world needs, but nobody knew of before. When you worked on Air Up at the beginning, what was the biggest struggle? Do you think it was actually the prototyping, the hardware, or was it for you, I don't know, finding the right scent? Where in the process was the hardest
what was
challenge?
the toughest challenge? I think, for us, to be honest, I mean, yes. So to put it a little bit into perspective, for us to find an idea took 1.5 months. To get to a functional prototype took another 1.5 months. But it was nothing else. We were just working. Like, there was no distraction whatsoever. And there was also no pressure from the outside to,
the goal was not to found a company in the end,
the goal was not to found a company at all. There was no financial pressure. There was nothing. Like, we were developing the product in a vacuum, if you want to.
Yeah.
I find a metaphor for it. And then after that, like, it took a while. Like, so Tim and myself, we actually never really thought about founding a company. It was actually Fabi who came in. He's like an old friend of mine who also needed a topic for his master thesis, who is a food technologist. He kind of developed the aromas for us. He did the scientific research behind the product. And he did work in a vacuum for another half year. Then we came together and said, this is too good to not make something out of it. We then applied for the Exist grant. We got it and said, okay, if we get it, then we'll work for another year on this project, and then whatever happens. And within this year, we had our first financial round. We founded the company. We talked, like, we had our first, like, Gesellschaftsvertrag, like a
Contract
between us, and then of course with the investors and all of that. So it was then about actually founding the company.
But that was in 2017, right?
That was starting in 2017 to late 2018. And within that time, we also further developed the prototype to a point where we're like, okay, this is maybe something that you could manufacture. So I think the product development from this functional prototype to actually something that we could put into production took another 1.5 years. So that process was a lot longer. Because also at that time we needed to find out, okay, what are the companies that we can work with, and this is something you don't find out. Or back in the days, it was not something you could find out while just Googling. It was like, a production company in Europe, like producing like plastic parts, but yeah, right. But there was a lot of how do you say? Connected. Like, we had to find, like, our investors were then the ones who also brought us to the right production company, because I already worked with them, who were in China. Also, that was like a huge step for us. I would say the toughest part, it's a very long answer, but the toughest part was to get everything done at the same time. So it was not a specific task, but it was to have the right priorities, because you could fail. If there were so many tasks that you could work endlessly, right?
Yeah.
So it was taking the right priorities and to make everything work at the same time, I would say.
Yeah, you mentioned something that is a big question in my mind, production, right? I think especially if you have never produced anything or brought a product onto the market, it's a big black box that you look into. As you said, you will not find someone in China probably on a website, or maybe the website is on Chinese, but you wouldn't know it. But then you said, okay, it was important to have investors by your side that are very deep into that topic and that knew exactly what you needed. There's a fourth co-founder, right? A business co-founder
Janus,
that came to the team later
There's a
on.
fifth, Simon.
Oh, wow. When did he come into the team? Also when...
At the end of the Exist grant.
Okay, so then you were 5 people, which is a big team to found a company, right?
Very big, yeah.
But you...
Very unusual.
Very unusual. Maybe also needed in that time, yeah?
I could not imagine it doing it without 4 other co-founders.
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course. Hopefully... you felt never alone and had great people to talk to during that roller coaster ride of emotions. So yeah, you had the product then on the market. You developed it for, as we now heard, a very long time. First of all, of course, big congratulations that it worked out this way and that you had so much strength and power to bring that product onto the market. Just because we already mentioned the investors, I heard some very famous names within the first investors, like Frank Thelen and Ralf Dümmel, right?
Yeah.
People that watch Die Hülle der Löwen know Ralf Dümmel always says, I'm the best in production. So maybe he was the one connecting you to the production side. But I think that's the first big learning, that obviously when you start a B2C company, when you need a production, that it's always good probably to have experts on board that know exactly what to look out for. So yeah, you went onto the market. As I said at the beginning, you sold 80,000 starter kits.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, you started through Amazon, and also were in the big.
Right, not a lot of people know that. Yeah.
And also you sold at, I think, Rewe, right? You went into the market quite early.
We did, yeah. We first sold via Amazon because we didn't manage to
have an
build our
online shop.
website in time. Then we started our website, I think, or selling through our website 1 month later. And while already selling on Amazon, we also went into any retailer that would take us. That was our first strategy.
Maybe for the Amazon, because you said you didn't manage to have the online shop in time. What was? Oops, sorry. What was maybe the pressure? Was it really the pressure to get onto the market as fast as possible to see if there is attraction? What was the pressure behind that decision to immediately go on?
Yeah, right. So the one plan we had at that time was bring the product to market.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we decided to bring it to market, then Simon, who's the fifth co-founder, he was the one responsible for commercialization. This is a very
Yeah,
complicated
very hard
word for a German. And he talked to other startups and looked at how other companies did it out there. And most of them had a multiple sales channel strategy. And then we thought, okay, I mean, the first goal was to find out whether our product actually hits a nerve and if people want to buy it. And then we were like, well, the strategy is to be available wherever we can. And more specifically, we at that time we were like, okay, the biggest problem we have is our product is new. People won't understand it, and probably people want to try it before buying it.
Yeah.
And therefore, we also wanted to be in the supermarkets because we also, what we did, that was one part of the strategy, was we went to supermarkets with our products and put up taste and trial stations for people to try, while also we knew, of course, we're not, because we always had the problem, we're not a classic beverage, like we're not a classic beverage company, we're not a classic tech company, we're not a classic, like lifestyle company, we're somehow in the
middle,
intersection of it. And therefore we thought, well, we could be sold at sports stores, like at Schusterman or whatever.
Yeah.
We could be sold in supermarkets because we're a beverage. We could be sold via Amazon because people buy drinking bottles there. And then we have our web shop because, if we do ads and stuff, like people come to our web shop and buy it. But then we found out that this strategy at that time was very complex, and it consumed a lot of time from a very small, unexperienced team. And that's when also our, we could almost say sixth co-founder came in. Now, our today's CEO, we had already contact with him, Chris. He was a previous CMO of Freeletics. He also founded a company in Switzerland, like a marketplace, a local marketplace. And he was heavily challenging that strategy. And he was like, well, we already see, like, after like the 80,000 status sets were sold off in a minute, like it felt like it, right?
Yeah.
He was like, well, we can see you don't need those taste and trial station in the first place to make people curious enough to buy the product. You don't need the retailers where you, of course, give up control over data, over positioning, over price, and so on and so forth. So let's just focus at first on our web shop. And that was our strategy for a very, very long time, actually, until just 1 year ago, where we said, okay, now we're at a point, first of all, where we actually can stem retail again. And also we see that the buying behaviors are shifting a little bit. So we also see that there is a big potential for us to now go to the retailers, because in the end, yes, our product is somehow a tech product. Like for the first purchase, it's good. Like our people come to our online stores, they hear from us over online advertisement. But in the second instance, for the pods to repurchase, it's not a typical purchase behavior to go to a specific website to order the pods and stuff. So it's good to be present at the retailers as well.
Yeah. Well, you said, okay, you wanted to go onto the market because you wanted to see if there's actually a need or if the people would actually buy the product. But I can imagine you tested that before, right?
Not really.
Not really. Was it really a wild shot to go out?
To think about that today is quite crazy. We had focus groups, like 2, and with a very unsophisticated prototype. And it was also like, it was not a quantitative test, it was a qualitative test. And it was just like, how do you like the drinking experience? People were like, yeah, I like it. And that kind of was
it. Okay,
that was it. And so it was a lot of trust in the product. And that's talking about the investors. Today I find it crazy that they were brave enough to believe in a prototype and this product to invest and make this step. And I'm in awe for that, because I think it's a rare quality to find people who believe in an innovation that is not yet tested, and especially today where you can test so many things.
Yeah, so no landing page like other B2B SaaS companies that start out.
No,
Is there
nothing.
nothing?
And the thing is, what makes it even crazier is because you have such a huge upfront investment. I mean, to produce those 80,000 starter sets, right? You have to invest in tooling. And tooling, so for those who have never been in contact with physical product development, it means you need to invest in like metal parts in which the plastic components get injected in. As it's like and they are really expensive. So those tools, and it also, because they are so expensive, it doesn't make sense to just produce a small quantity. So it doesn't make sense to just produce like 1,000 products, because it would be as expensive as it would be to produce 80,000 products, right? So that's what makes physical product development quite tough.
But also very interesting, right?
Right.
I mean, B2B SaaS, everyone can do that. No, just kidding. No. But yeah, so you sold the 80,000s. Now, I cannot imagine that you sell 80,000s without doing a little bit of marketing, right? Especially, or did you sell most of them in retail, in stores, because the people tried it out?
To be honest, our marketing was very, very limited. But like, yes, we did marketing, but we didn't have a lot of money. So, we didn't.
Because of the production, probably.
Yeah, because all of the money that we had went into production, basically.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of PR, which is also quite unusual, I would say. The good thing was that since we had a new product, that was not just, it's not rocket science, but it triggers a certain curiosity. It's something new. While everyone could try it. It was not just like a super complicated technology that maybe 10% I don't know,
newspaper reader.
I'm interested in, but it's something that everyone could relate to.
Yeah.
A lot of journalists were interested, so that was one part. So that was actually my job, because we realized, okay, it was just one person has to do it and has to talk. It's quite time consuming. That was one part, and then we did influencer marketing basically from the beginning onwards.
From the beginning on.
Yeah, and then it was sending products to them, asking them nicely, hey,
can you maybe try it?
Can you maybe try it, and then do a post about it?
Yeah.
that was our marketing strategy in the beginning. We did a little bit of social paid, but it was very limited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out perfectly, right? 80,000, that's not easy to reproduce or to, reproduce that success for you guys. Were the 80,000 everything you produced at the beginning? So you were just sold out?
That was, and that's what yesterday my co-founder, we have every month, we have a session where we welcome newbies in our company, and we also tell the founding story. And then my co-founder Janis, he was like, yeah, and you know what? That was actually a huge problem because we were stock out and we had to find ways to, build up like a reliable supply chain to reproduce and so on and so forth. And I was like, yeah, Janis, but you forget we had to be sold out in the first place, right? Sometimes, but yeah, it was a struggle then.
Yeah,
and that was also the reason why we then brought Chris on board, because he did that. He had experience in conversing. Because also then our strategy, bring the product to market, was done, right?
What's next?
Yeah, what's next? We're like, don't know.
The brand.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we had things piled up, but we struggled then to build a vision for the next steps.
Yeah. Let's maybe take some time to talk about the brand, because one memory that I have with AirUp is that friends from my parents came over and they have a little daughter, and she was the first one that I actually saw using AirUp. And I was like, cool, how do you know it? And she looked at me, she's like, everyone uses that in my school. Like, how do I know about it? Like, everyone uses it. Was that something you anticipated? Was that something you knew from the beginning on, that also kids, or you said you had different, you had two like groups that you were actively
focus groups,
that you were looking at.
Famous focus groups, yeah.
So was the fact that especially younger people, I think you once said 20 or 18 to 25 or something is your main audience, was that something you knew from the beginning on, or was that actively anticipated?
It was, what was actively anticipated is that we wanted to speak to, I don't know if back in the days it was not Gen Z, I think, but like to the young adults, 18 to 25, because we, like in the beginning, actually the question was in the beginning, do we bring a product for diabetes patients to market?
Okay, yeah.
Because there are a lot of diseases that people who suffer from certain diseases would profit from our product. But then we're like, yeah, well, a med tech product, we actually limit the potential of it, because it could be suitable for basically everyone who wants to drink more water, wants to reduce sugary drinks. And then we're like, no, we believe we have to promote this as a lifestyle product. That was the first decision. And the second decision was like, we knew that it would be a perfect product for kids, because of course, kids love drinking sugary drinks.
Yeah,
right?
I still love though.
I think everyone loves. I mean, that again, coming back to the sensor, everyone loves it.
Yeah,
but especially kids, and they don't have this rational thought process where, like, yeah, I should be. No sugar for me today. It's the role of the parents to say no sugar for you today, honey. But so we knew they would probably love to have more exciting ways to drink water. And of course, it's like no caries and so on. So there's a lot of reasons to it. But we also said, well, it's probably going to be hard to then build up a brand from a kids. Like once we position as our brand as a kids brand, it's going to be hard to reach adults.
True, yeah.
And what we then found out was that while targeting young adults, we actually had spillover effects in both target groups. And this was the way better strategy for kids, because kids don't want to be talked to as kids, right? They don't want to have those kids products. They normally love to have the things that they're cool siblings or have, or influencers. Actually, it's like also like they have, like they watch influencers and stuff like that. So it was a very good strategy for us. And in the end, because we didn't target them, I think, directly, it got a hype at the schoolyards. And we still profit from it until today.
Great network effect.
Yeah, great effect. The only problem that we have, it became so popular with kids that actually we had this shift towards kids, and we're like, maybe it's good to again take the considerate decision to once again focus on the young adults, to keep both like sides below and above happy, and that's what we're currently doing.
Talking about cool people using AirUp, I have never seen a picture, but I heard a lot about Kim Kardashian having her AirUp and run around set with it.
Our 3, I think, most famous minutes. Yes.
I mean, I can imagine these moments as a founder. They are surreal. Right?
Yeah.
Looking into the US, I mean, I think especially expanding in the US is a huge step.
Yeah.
Beverage market in the US, I mean, 10 times as big, not only from the size that there are more people, but also from the products that they actually have on the market. How was that? And how did AirUp end up on set with Kim Kardashian?
Yeah, that was a surreal moment. That was a surreal time, I would say. I mean, just for you to put it into context, I mean, in the 2019, when we came to market, we had half a year. So we came to market in summer. We made 2 million revenue in this half year. Then next year, 20 million. Next year, 90 million. Next year, 170 million. Next year, 200 million.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah,
it was
a crazy growth curve.
Yeah.
So everything was crazy at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But we had this like the step into the US, what we discussed internally was like, okay, we had some in Germany well-known investors on board for the German market entry, and it helped us. So like in terms of PR, it really helped us. And we wanted to find a trusted face also in the US to be on board. And that was the moment when we came in contact with Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, who invested in our company. And they, or Ashton, he organized a marathon in New York. And because he organized this marathon, it was a charity marathon. He had a, how do you say, one of the things he wanted to do beforehand was to do a peloton training to kind of market this charity run. And then when we were talking to him, he's like, yeah, no worries, I will bring the bottle to this training. And then Kim Kardashian was at this training, and then he just put it into her hand and was like, this is AirUp.
And try it out.
And then the storm on WhatsApp began. All my friends was like, oh my God,
did you see that?
And I at that time was like, what? I didn't even I
realize it. Yeah. Probably back then no one was thinking if it's AI or not. I think nowadays people would be like, oh, is this AI? Did this actually happen? But back then it was probably not an issue. Yeah, I actually like that you talk about the celebrity investors in your company, because I think a lot about celebrity investors, because I believe that especially for a B2C product, it has huge upsides, right? As you said, you have a lot of PR. So hearing that for you guys, it really worked and had an impact on the company and also growing in the US is really good to hear. Actually, we in a course at TUM, we talked about celebrity investors, and then the professor said, well, you just have to ask AirUp if it worked or not. And then we know if it has good impact.
Yeah, what was interesting about Ashton Kutcher is that he's more known in the US. It's quite common to use celebrity investors, so it's not huge news.
Yeah.
In Germany and in Europe, this was huge news. So it was actually, it had an effect, but the effect that we intended was less strong on the US side than it was in Europe.
That's actually a good insight. Good to know. But yeah, I mean, we're still at the beginning. We're just experiencing how celebrities are trying to invest and get their hands on good products. For the last part of this podcast, I would like to talk a bit about your journey and how it was for you. As you said in the beginning, you never anticipated to found. You're a founding team of 5, what I learned today. You're the only woman in the team. How was that, building a company straight out of university? I think you worked for Philips in between for a small internship. Yeah, take us back. How are you? I mean, of course, how are you feeling now after all these years? I mean, you're still alive. You're here. You're laughing. That's good. You're having a good time. But how was it? How was the journey?
Of course, it was... it was a crazy roller coaster ride, as I said in the beginning, because I think what maybe was, not especially, a lot of startups found straight out of university, but we had no work experience, right? So we had to, like, just from thinking as oneself as a student, right, and being it being a student project, to becoming like real work, and also like having a lot of responsibility, not only for yourself, for your other co-founders, but also for the team, the company, for the investors, right? Because also at the point where you're like, okay, we have quite a few millions on the bank from our investors who believe in us. This better be working. It was a lot of pressure. And of course, there were times where, especially in the beginning, for me, but everyone, I would assume, I know if you would ask my co-founders what the toughest time was in this whole journey, they would all name probably a different time of the journey. So it's a very subjective perspective that I now talk about. But for me, especially the beginning was very emotional and very tough, because as for me, does it really work? Like, for me also, I mean, a lot of work from my side went into the product, right?
Yeah.
And then like sitting there at 2 a.m., never having built a product for market before, right? Yes, I worked at Philips, but I worked on like smaller parts of like coffee machines and stuff like that. And yes, I brought them to market, but it was not something I was solely responsible for. And also there was a lot of data existing. The projects, like in development, they took like 1 year or something like that. We had 2 months to develop this product. So I was sitting there at 2 a.m. and thinking, okay, should I make this look like this or look like this? It could make a difference. Does it work? If we now bring it to production, it doesn't work, then we have 80,000 products not working and going, like, money going down the drain, like products having to putting them to garbage. So there was a lot of pressure. And then I think the further the journey went on, it was then like, I was more of an identity question, like, how am I as a founder? Like, how am I behaving as a founder of a company? Like how do we lead a team? Like, how do you lead a team that is more experienced than you?
Yeah.
Older than you? Like, how do you behave in those situations? And, you go through phases where, like, okay, we have to now. Like, in the beginning, it felt more like a shared flat where everyone was working and, day and night, but also going partying, being friends, and so on and so forth. And then going to like a company of 150 people overnight, it felt like it was then, okay, now we have to stop partying, we have to be very strict. We have to be very strict, like no one is friends anymore, like, and now finding a more natural way of
balance of it all.
So that was a huge journey, and I can only recommend for anyone who goes through that journey to do coaching, to do therapy. It sounds bad, but it is actually the same thing as coaching from my perspective. There's not a huge difference, but it really helps oneself to sometimes get out of this wheel where you just work day and night and you have no time to reflect on what's happening around you, what's happening to you, what's happening to the team. To take the time to, take one step back, look at it from the outside, and think about what can be done better. And I would say it takes a lot of the emotion out.
Yeah.
And that's actually what you need at that time because it's just
I can imagine. And I mean, it's a huge blessing that you have a team of 5 that still exists and that you, through the tough times, still, I mean, you probably also had your struggles there, which is very normal.
Every team, I would say, has their struggles. But I think it speaks a lot that we're still all on board. And yeah, also that was a journey, but I think I think the maybe just a sentence to that. I think the good thing about a large team is, of course, you can share responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So if I imagine to be one person or just having 2 people for building the company that we are right now, I think I would be
drowning even more.
Yeah, no, I would not sitting be here. I would be not sitting here because I think I would have not made it through. So I think it's just you can share responsibility. But of course, the more you are, the more perspectives come into the company, the more discussions you have, the more the more discussions you have, the more visions you have in the company you have to align or not align.
Yeah.
Think about who takes the last, who has the last word. It's actually one of the reasons why we brought Chris into the company, because we said we're 5 founders. We have our areas of expertise. We're good in our stuff, but we have such different opinions. It's really hard to find an end to our discussions. Let's maybe have someone who has more experience and who can listen to everyone, but then say, okay, guys,
yeah,
it's enough.
We have to focus here. I mean, that's actually a good take, because talking about a very old concept, the founder's dilemma, right? They also talk a lot about when do founders realize that they actually need to take someone in, like a CEO, to step up and to to help making decisions with more experience and to actually scale the company eventually in the long run, right? You mentioned you started with being full on production, full on product design for a very long time. What is your role now at AirUp?
Actually, it's a bit of a full circle moment, because just recently I made the step back to product, and I'm leading the product design department. So all our we were 3 product founders, so to say. Tim, who I did the bachelor thesis with, Fabi, who is the one always the food technologist who's been responsible for the flavors, but also who was responsible for supply chain and logistics for a long time. We all 3 got back to product, and we're sharing the 3 departments underneath us. It's actually very nice to be back.
And what you're good at, what started this whole company with heart and soul, right?
Yeah. I think over the last years, so my role was always at the intersection of product, brand, and communications.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized in the recent years, I did enjoy I love branding. I do love PR and communications. But I felt like I was not, I lost a little bit of impact because it was always so far away from things. And I do enjoy a lot working hands-on again. So I do actually work on product. We don't have, one of the reasons why we went back is because we said, okay, we don't want to have a manager managers layer in that department, or in general, that are just being managers. We want people who work hands-on as well as managers, not just leading the team but also working on the things, and that's what I'm doing. So I work on product myself, and I have a great team to work on the different projects, and it's a lot of fun.
And still innovation is at the core of the company.
Yeah, right.
To keep on building for the future. I think I have one last question, which is maybe not such a serious question, but good to know. How much water do you drink without having an air up, or is it something that is everywhere in your household?
No, I have it everywhere. So I have many bottles by now. I think the main purpose for me is during the day at my desk, but I also have one always next to my bed. Thing that you don't also didn't intend it, but I realized it's actually quite practical. After having brushed your teeth, you can still have something with flavor.
True. Good. I think new marketing campaign needs to go out for that, especially for kids again or something. Yeah. Well, I very, very enjoyed talking to you, and I know that I still have a lot of questions because starting this empire of a company is, of course,
a big word. But
yeah, I mean, in the end, you mentioned the numbers, right? These are numbers. I think not a lot of companies can, especially not a lot of B2C companies can be proud of these numbers in such a short time. And what makes me especially proud is that obviously you are in Munich, which is not normal to have such a big B2C company that is so young, so innovative in the deep tech hub in Munich. So from my side, a big, big thank you. And I wish all the best for the upcoming months and years. And I think now with Christmas season, probably a big market ahead.
Best time for us.
Maybe new flavors for the air up and Christmas. I don't know, gingerbread. I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if you have that, but yeah. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And yeah, I don't have anything less to say except you have something on your mind, something that still goes through your mind.
No, I'm happy that you have this podcast. I think it's great to have when we started with Arab, the startup bubble in Munich was relatively small. It also very, very focused on deep tech, as you said. And now I feel it's widening. There's more fresh wind coming into the city and to the startup scene. So I'm very happy, to see the development of it.
Totally. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you.
Sparc is proudly presented by Ripplefilm, storytelling for tech, B2B and beyond.